Well, good morning and welcome to Live Impact News here on 13 News Now Plus. 10 o'clock a.m. on the dot. It is December 4th and it is a Thursday. We are really making our way through December very smoothly here. Let's hope we can make our way through the next 2 hours of Live Impact News very smoothly. The person who will be most instrumental in helping us do that is super producer Sarah Calloway. Sarah, great to see you. Welcome once again.
Thank you.
And now we've got a lot going right off the top here. Sarah has been just grinding on live shots and banners since the moment we sat down because our live bank is completely full right now. The main two things we are monitoring, you'll see at the top of your screen, all right? That is members of the House speaking about bipartisan health care. Now, one of the members who spoke was Congresswoman Jen Kiggans, who represents one of our districts right here in Hampton Roads. Our District 2 Representative Jen Kiggans taking the podium just moments ago. We are going to go back and listen to her words specifically, as well as other parts of this press conference a little later in the stream. Now, at the bottom of your screen, you will see a major event happening in advance of the FIFA World Cup draw. The FIFA World Cup draw expected to be announced tomorrow. This event has been going on all morning with a variety of speakers, including USA soccer legend Kobe Jones and Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, because that World Cup is being held right here in the United States. Multiple cities on the East Coast will be hosting World Cup games in the summer of 2026, one of the biggest sporting events in the world, one of the biggest cultural events in the world, right here in the United States. But the reason we say all of that is still to come is because we have the most important story of the day right here in studio. Craig Moeller, both the man himself and a very important forecast for tomorrow morning.
Hey, we are watching this, Connor, for sure. That's quite a buildup, so I feel definite pressure to produce for you guys right now. Want to start off with our weather impact alert. Guys, we have tomorrow morning a good chance for some snow and then some mixed precipitation, mainly for the inland areas. I think near the coast it's going to be a chilly rain. Temperatures this morning were down in the lower to mid-20s for inland areas. We had upper 20s to low 30s closer to the coast. It was a cold start to the day, but it was also a dry start, so we didn't have any freezing to worry about other than a little bit of frost on some of the windshields and, just a really chilly start. Things change tomorrow. Moisture arrives. We're going to look for snow and mix inland. And again, that rain near the coast. Folks need to monitor travel conditions for central and southeast Virginia, as well as northern portions of North Carolina through the morning tomorrow. So I do think maybe a little touch and go. We met with VDOT yesterday and they were discussing all of their preps. Of course, they're pre-treating the roads that they're most concerned with. But the good thing about this is I think as this begins for those inland areas that are more likely to see the heavier snow, it's going to begin as snow. And that is good because if you put down pre-treatment and snow falls on it, it's able to act very quickly. Where we get into trouble a lot of times with some of the pre-treatments is they put it down and then you get a heavy rain before transitioning to snow. And in that case, you could have freezing on top of slushy roads or wet conditions can ice over. That's not what we're looking at for tomorrow. For tomorrow, what we're going to find, again, snow showers starting mainly inland and off to the north. By the time that moisture reaches the coast, it is going to be a little bit warmer. Temperatures more like mid-30s to upper 30s. So while we might see a few wet snowflakes kind of in the mix, it should largely transition over to cool rain, or I'll say cold rain. If it's in the 30s and wet, that's cold rain. All right, so we do have a winter weather advisory for inland areas. This is including James City County, so just west of Williamsburg, Surrey, Sussex, Southampton, parts of the Middle Peninsula, but it does not include Gloucester or Matthews. Areas of the northern neck, inland up towards Tappahannock. Along I-95, I'm concerned with travel conditions along I-95. And those secondary roads, even once you get out past Franklin, headed out towards Emporia, maybe you take 58 out that way, some of those areas feeding into 58 could get a little dicey as well, depending on how much snow we see. Now let's take a look at what the temperatures are like right now. That's for tomorrow. Currently we're in the upper 30s to low 40s across the area, and we do have some high clouds increasing. You see with our Thompson Creek Window Company Skyview, those high cirrus clouds, those will increase later today. and tonight especially. There'll still be some breaks in the clouds for a while, but we will see more and more of that cloud cover. 41 at the airport. Winds are west-southwest at 7 miles per hour. Temperatures today, upper 40s, low 50s for some inland areas. You see the clouds. Sarah, this is a bummer that we've got clouds this evening, and I know that you know why.
I do.
Do you want to share?
We have a supermoon tonight.
Yeah, the third one in a row. October, November supermoons. Tonight, our December supermoon. And because it is the closest full moon to the winter solstice, what do we call this full moon?
The coldest supermoon on the calendar.
Close enough.
The ice moon.
It's the cold moon.
The cold moon. Was
Yeah,
that really
was
close?
a total guess on Connor's part. Go buy a lottery ticket.
That
You
is
are correct.
One of the great accomplishments I've had at this station is getting even remotely close to that just now.
He's like, the coldest moon? Correct. Good enough. No, the cold moon, a super moon tonight. But again, it's going to be mostly cloudy. We might see a few breaks if you are fortunate enough to look up and see that full moon. It's going to be at its brightest, fullest, largest view, expected around 6:14 this evening.
Okay, fantastic.
Give or take, a minute. So that's what's going on tonight. Did you have a question?
I've got 3 questions. I wonder if I let you go through, and then we'll do a question roundup at the end.
Okay, let's jump into this real quick. Chances for rain tomorrow. Again, it's going to go up as we go, especially just pre-sunrise and then through the morning. Rain is likely. That's for Norfolk specifically. You'll notice how it's pretty good, the rain chances through mid to late morning, and then it tapers off later in the day. Into the weekend, we should be drier, so that's encouraging if you've got outdoor plans. Rainfall amounts between 1/3 and 1/2 an inch by most of the models, and again, that's for Norfolk. The snow totals will be greater farther inland. Now, you look at the moisture, it's down to the south. That stuff moving across Mississippi and Alabama will continue to spread to the east-northeast. We've got another frontal boundary that is out there, and that boundary back here across southern Missouri, northern Arkansas, working across Oklahoma, that's going to stream in as well. So eventually, we are going to see the precip developing. Question is, how much will we see? Well, I'll show you the projections from the graph model. Clouds on the increase today. Look for the snow showers to begin tomorrow morning overnight, but very, very light. And you'll notice the change this morning, just recently, the one that just updated about a half an hour ago from the previous, was that the snow is going to be a little lighter across parts of the peninsula and even Franklin. You'll see how it's really concentrated a little farther to the north. That's up around Tappahannock, West Point, back over towards Richmond, but not as much farther south on the peninsula. This is through 4 a.m. By the time we get to 5, 6 o'clock, this is when I do expect snow across Isle of Wight, snow on the peninsula, some mix or snow across parts of Suffolk, back out towards Franklin. But those temperatures pretty borderline, 33, 34 degrees. Some of what falls is going to melt, and then as we go later in the morning, there'll be a transition back to rain. Now, previously, it kind of kept us socked in with the snow, but you can see how it starts to break up a little bit with this updated futurecast here. And again, the rain moves out later in the afternoon. All right, here's a look at the projections on the snowfall. Sarah, we talked about this earlier on the weather desk. Earlier, it looked like Newport News was set to maybe get 1.5 inches or 2 inches. That has dropped off to near 1/10 of an inch. So a significant drop in this model's projection. It's one model. It can swing back the other way. I still expect snow up there and a mix. But the question is, if it changes over to rain, then this lower solution is good. If it stays snow for longer, then it'll swing back the other way. But just know that there should be snow or mix transitioning to rain for Hampton and Newport News. You go farther north, up around Williamsburg, and then up towards West Point. Now, West Point and Richmond has seen those totals going up.
Way up.
Earlier.
That was like 2 inches when we talked to you
2
yesterday.
to 3 inches is what it was looking like earlier. Now the model's going, nope, Richmond gets 4 1/3. Again, that may be a little overblown, but it's a possibility. So we'll continue to refine this. We're still 12 hours or 24 hours out, rather. So you definitely want to check back again for updates from our weather team later today and right here on Live Impact News. Today's high around 51. We'll say upper 40s to low 50s. Increasing clouds, chances for snow before sunrise inland, and then snow and mix inland. Rain at the coast. Highs tomorrow near 45. Quick mention over the weekend, drier on Saturday. Good news for the boat parade, which I'll be emceeing. We've talked a lot about that fundraiser for VB Rescue. Saturday should be okay. Low 40s, cloudy skies. Dry for the boat parade. That's great. Sunday, partly sunny, 50, and then another push of cold air into early next week. Sarah, the next week stays below average. And Connor, as I looked out through December 18th, over the next 2 weeks, temperatures for us here in the Mid-Atlantic, through the Northeast U.S., your old stomping grounds, Northern Virginia, back into Pennsylvania, Philly, those areas off to the north, below average. So chilly air for the Northeast. Warm, though, for the Southwest. If you guys want to escape the cold, you can head to the Four Corners region for the next couple weeks.
Where's the Four Corners region?
That would be Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, and Arizona.
Way southwest.
You know the Four Corners, where all of the four corners of the states meet. You
That's
can
awesome.
Put your foot on one point and stand in 4 states at once.
That makes a ton of sense. I thought you meant Southwest Virginia. I thought you were keeping it. No, you're talking way.
No, we're
you need a
talking
plane
go to the
ticket.
other side of the
Okay.
country. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Excellent forecast. Not the best content, but so well delivered. A couple of questions. Number one, how did you know that Sarah would know about the moon? Are you big into the moon watching,
She
Sarah?
is moons and crystals. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, she's our producer for the weather desk as well.
Ah,
so
yes.
She was
Okay.
pulling some of that information.
So you don't have a personal interest in like moon gazing?
I mean, I think it's cool,
Okay. Yeah.
but
So
you
not.
know, I
could-
have to.
You're
look
not
for that.
against moon
on any
gazing.
given morning, I could ask Sarah, just in this format right now,
Yeah.
about volcano eruptions.
Yeah.
We could talk about flooding in other parts of the world, space exploration,
Sort of a junior meteorologist.
or a really good producer.
Or an excellent producer, as always. Okay, question number 2. This morning I walked out, and it was the first morning where I had to sit in my car
Yep.
and wait for the hot air from the AC to clear the frost on my windshield and my side windows. Now, one, sorry to my neighbors who saw me sitting in there for 10 minutes and probably thought I was having some sort of emotional breakdown. But two, there's been cold mornings before in the last 2 weeks, and I haven't had to deal with that. Is it just the presence of extra moisture that led to
So
that?
there was a little bit of moisture.
Yeah.
The atmosphere's been dry,
Yeah.
largely. But it's more about those dew points getting down or being at a level, let's say upper 20s to low 30s. And that's dry atmosphere, but our air temperatures drop down to that. So you get temperatures at the dew point on cooled surfaces like subfreezing, and you get the frost. And that was the case this morning. So it did take a little bit of time to warm up the car. And this was some of the colder air we've seen so far this year for many areas, inland areas especially. Emporia was down to 22 earlier this morning. So, you're flirting almost down, you think 22, you're like a sneeze away from the teens. So, very cold inland. And then near the coast, it was more like upper 20s and low 30s, but cold enough for frost.
And then third, we've heard from VDOT, they'll be treating the roads, as you said, but they also included that this is an extremely productive warm-up for them, for winter storms to come. What about this storm makes it such a good way to prepare for the winter ahead?
So 2 things. Again, and I said this in our morning meeting, back to the newsroom, this is not Snowmageddon. All right. This is not like that 10 to 14-inch snowfall that we had last January where the area was blanketed and it was all hands on deck. It was incredible. Not like that. This is part of the region is going to see maybe an inch or 2, enough that you'll need to work the roads as they are doing. And again, the pre-treatment with snow coming, this is going to give them a chance to go through all of those practices, make sure that, hey, we've got the logistics correct. The trucks are getting out the right times. We're getting everything covered. Oh, we need to allow a little more time for this or a little less time for that. So it's just a great kind of a lead up. It's kind of like, our Hampton Roads area getting brushed by a tropical storm versus getting hit with a hurricane earlier in the season. Gives everybody a chance to make sure they've got their stuff together. Okay, we know what we're doing. Now we're ready for the bigger hit.
Emergency crews. Is our communication top level?
Yeah,
Are our
all that
resources all ready to go? Do we have what we need? Okay, awesome.
And they've done a good job. And like I said, last year we were hit so hard. Every time systems come through like this, whether it's a tropical system, a hurricane, or a major winter storm, emergency managers, the weather service, all of the coordinators, we all learn important lessons which we apply moving forward.
And then in Richmond, you're getting 4+ inches of snow in early December. How rare is that, even for a more northern city?
It's a model that's projecting that.
Right.
It is not unheard of that we get these types of events, especially in central, northern, and western parts of Virginia. But, it's game on, so it's a little bit early, and some folks are probably really excited to have that potential. Others are going, ugh, already?
Right.
So it's really about the perspective. So, it's one of those things, again, you're in December. I would say anytime December, January, February, even into early March, don't be shocked if you get something.
And I'll reemphasize what you kind of noted just then, is that we're still 24 hours out. Our meteorologists want to make sure you are prepared for the worst case scenario. But they are still monitoring these models as they go.
And one other thing, Connor, we touched on this a little bit, but I'll just state it again. When you see some of those models projecting a 4-inch snow total up around Richmond, that's the potential, 4.3. A lot of what that model doesn't know, does it all stick to the ground? That's not like hey, this is the amount of measured snow that's going to be. That's what they're saying is going to fall. And the model's picking up, there'll be some of that melts or compacts a little bit. So it may be more like 3 inches up there, or 2.5 to 3.5 inches, something like that. We'll see. We'll continue to watch it, but the potential's there. Now, if it's a frozen ground that is frozen hard and you get that certainly elevated surfaces, you do have that potential for that type of snowfall. Also, you look at again, the moisture content versus how dry the various layers are, and that can determine how fluffy or how compact, how heavy the snow is. So there's a lot going on. Again, this is what the models are projecting, and we are going to be refining the forecast as we go over the next 24 hours.
Okay, very good. And it's still going to be cold, but that will all clear out in time for Saturday and Sunday to be a little bit more relaxed.
Yeah, it's going to be cloudy on Saturday. Temperatures still pretty chilly in the mid-40s, back to 50 on Sunday. But remember, the normal high is 57, so it is going to be below average. And looking out through the 18th of December, we are still expecting below average temperatures here. This was something we talked about literally like a month or so ago. We were saying, man, it's looking like the models are trending chilly for early December. Here we are.
Okay, let's hope that they pay it back in March. I'm all here for a cold December if we get a warm March.
It's funny. I love the snow right up through Christmas. After the holidays, I'm like, you get me back to the beach.
Yes, back to the beach.
And remember, this does some good things, too, when we do get the colder temperatures and the wintry weather. I'll mention things like insects and pests that need to be kind of killed off. And, you don't have those killing frosts or the normal cold that we should get at some point over the winter. When we have really warm winters, that can lead to other issues into the spring. So this is all part of the normal, natural cycle, and it's good to get some of this colder weather.
Okay, very good. Every season comes with their pluses and minuses. Craig Moeller, he comes with all pluses for us here on Live Impact News. Anything else we need to know, Craig, before we let you go?
I just do.
Go ahead.
Oh, yes.
Let me route it real quick. But we were just talking about the supermoon. This is a live look.
Hey, there you go. Where's that coming from?
It's over Pakistan.
There you go. Beautiful.
The supermoon. And is that the cold moon?
That's the cold moon.
That's the cold moon.
Yeah, the cold moon there is the cold moon here. We all look up. That was one of the things my dad, who served in the Navy, always told my mom, and Dad was overseas. I was actually born in Japan. He served during Vietnam. He's a surface warfare officer. But he said, hey, just remember, when we both look up at the sky, we're seeing the same moon. So there you go, guys.
Okay.
No matter where you are.
Craig, we weren't prepared for you to
Little
drop
emotion.
The most romantic, wonderful thing I've ever heard in my life on us before leaving us this morning.
That is beautiful, though,
It
isn't
is. Oh, and it's moving.
Good stuff.
Oh, boy. Okay.
It's like moon or they adjusted the camera. One other quick
be
note,
either one.
and I think this is significant, Sarah, just on the heels of talking the cold weather. You had mentioned there are some different shelters and stuff that are going to be open during the cold weather months, and there are some different ministries. I know if people go to our 13 News Now website and search shelter, I believe it is, you'll get all kinds of information. But, you may know somebody, maybe you have somebody that's homeless in your neighborhood or that you pass a lot, and you want to make sure they know that there is some assistance available if you take time to maybe get some of that information and share it. Obviously cold again and wet tomorrow morning, which makes being homeless even that much more dangerous because that wet cold really draws the moisture, it draws the heat rather from your body. So it can be very dangerous during these months. And we are in for more cold weather over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and
It's a little something to think about.
We talk so much about how wonderful the holidays are and how much we enjoy the holidays, but this time of year can be incredibly difficult for a lot of people as well. So we want to constantly keep them in the front of our mind at the same time. So thank you, Craig. That was wonderful. A touching end to your forecast today. Sometimes it ends a little chaotic. We
This
appreciate
time-
you bringing us back to the center today. Awesome. Craig, thank you so much.
You got it, guys. Thanks for having me. And stay updated on the weather. Our team will keep working to keep you there, okay?
Right here, 13 News Now Plus, 24/7. You can find weather coverage and weather updates. Our team will be bringing them all day long. As Craig said, this is still 24 hours out. They are still monitoring the situation. And so if anything changes, they'll keep you updated. And we hope that that keeps you as safe as possible as well. Okay, a wonderful trip to the Live Impact studio for Craig Moeller. We appreciate him as always. All right, let's reset here. It's 10:21 a.m. We are going to go ahead and transition to something that we talked about earlier this morning, kind of a preview before we got into our weather forecast, and that is members of the House of Representatives talking about bipartisan health care. And that includes 2nd District Congresswoman Jen Kiggans from right here in Hampton Roads. This was recorded just before we came on air for Live Impact News. It stretched through the beginning of our show. It has since concluded, so we are going to go and play the video for you and listen in on representatives, including Representative Kiggans, talking about bipartisan health care right now.
First, thank you so much for being here this morning. We're very grateful. I want to thank all the members of both parties who are here. I especially want to thank Jen Kiggans, who's been a phenomenal partner helping lead us, and thank you so much, Jen. In the last month, families have seen their health insurance premiums surge as they've shopped for insurance during open enrollment because enhanced premium tax credits are set to expire, as we all know, at the end of the year. In fact, because of this, for millions of families on the ACA, their health premiums will rise an average of 26% next year. In Jersey, where we live, it could be even rougher with a 175% increase. That's $20,000 for a family of four. And that's why we're all here together, to try to solve this problem, do something about it, and avoid a massive new tax on hardworking families. So this bipartisan group came together, has been working for weeks, and I know Jen and I are very grateful for everybody's incredible leadership and all the time they've put in, talking not just to each other, but with the groups of senators, and putting aside the BS and delivering real solutions for people. Lots of Zooms and lots of calls, and we finally produced something called Common Ground 2025. You'll see it in the giant easel over there. It's backed by 35 House Democrats and Republicans, and will actually help make health care more affordable for American families. For us, this is all about working together to find common ground for the American people and to make life more affordable for them. The framework includes an extension of health insurance premium savings for American families, with targeted modifications to help ensure families can still get the help they need. I think you all have copies of it, of the plan. If you don't, we'll make sure, just raise your hand, we'll make sure you get one. It's paid for and takes steps to ensure we root out fraud. We're calling for a vote by December 18th in both chambers of Congress to get something done before premiums rise in January. As part of our plan, we'll also work together on a menu of longer-term reforms to help families continue to save on their premiums. Having access to health care can literally mean the difference, as you know, between life and death. The House and Senate must work together to see this through. Time is ticking. Time's not on our side, but we know that if we work together, and we'll sit down with anybody, the president, our leadership, anybody you want, we'll sit down with to get something done. Because if we work together and lower costs, we know that our families' lives will be better, they'll be healthier, and we'll deliver for the country, and our best days will be ahead. Now, I'm going to turn it over to Jen, and thank you so much. Thanks. Thanks, Jen.
Thank you. Well, good morning to all of you. Thank you for taking time to be with us, and a special thank you to my colleagues who we share the stage with today. I'm Congresswoman Jen Kiggans, and I proudly represent Virginia's 2nd Congressional District. What you see before you are a bipartisan group of congressmen and women who have come together to find a solution to a problem that all Americans care about, health care. We did what we said we would do after the 43-day government shutdown. We came together to discuss health care reform and the looming expiration of ACA enhanced premium tax credits. The group on this stage is sincere in our desire to ensure Americans have affordable health care coverage. As a geriatric nurse practitioner, co-chair of the Nursing Caucus, and one of the 2 nurse practitioners in Congress, it's an issue that I personally and professionally care about and is why I'm here with my colleagues to impress upon our Republican and Democrat House and Senate leadership that we can find bipartisan solutions to provide affordable health care for the people who need it the most. Although we may have different opinions over the long-term solutions for reforming marketplace health care, or if there are even better and cheaper options for publicly available health insurance, we agree on the many aspects of the short-term solutions and are here today to share those with all of you. Although many bills have appeared to offer similar ideas, we wanted to propose more of a bipartisan framework to make it clear to the House and Senate leadership that defined ideas do exist, but that both sides of the aisle support. And you'll see on our letter that we have 15 Republicans and 20 Democrats, and I'm sure we could find more when we try harder. We stand here today facing an end-of-the-year expiration of the enhanced premium tax credits already in place and recognize that the clock is ticking and the deadline is looming and that implementing effective solutions will take time. The ACA is what is before us. I have 40,000 people in my district who rely on this health care, and doing nothing to prevent a spike in their premiums is wrong, especially after all the positive work we've tried to do with Working Families Tax Plan to address everyday affordability issues. With this deadline in front of us, we have broken the bipartisan framework we present today into two necessary steps and conveniently a 2-year process. And you have your page in front of you, so I'll spare all the details, but just know in summary, year one or step one is extension of the ACA enhanced premium tax credits, including things like income caps, some guardrails for waste, fraud, and abuse issues, PBM reform. Year two or step two would be continued reforms as agreed upon in the House and Senate by this summer, which would be before the midterm election season, including some options like physician fee schedule increases, hospital billing transparency, elimination of $0 premiums with provisions for need-based hardship support, implementation of HSA accounts based on the Cassidy bill, which would eventually eliminate the need, hopefully, for premium tax credits, and including the Give Kids a Chance Act to accelerate pediatric cancer treatments and expand access to life-saving therapies for children battling rare diseases. In closing, I offer the Oxford Language Dictionary of Compromise, an agreement or settlement of a dispute that is reached by each side making concessions. It's a word that we don't use often in the halls of Congress, but it's something the American people are craving and anxiously waiting for us to demonstrate that we understand and aren't afraid to use as a tool to get things done for them, the people we represent and serve. Lastly, thank you to my colleagues who have agreed to work on an issue near and dear to my heart, and I look forward to continuing to work together to ensure all Americans have the health care they deserve and can afford. Thank you very much, and with that, I'd like Susie Lee to come speak.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Jen. All right, good morning, everyone. It's great to be here. I just want to say two things. First of all, with the tax credits expiring, healthcare is going to become unaffordable for millions of Americans. And they're going to make the risky choice that my parents had to make when my father lost his job when he was 58. They had pre-existing conditions. It was before the ACA. And they made the decision to not have health insurance. They just couldn't afford it. There are going to be many senior couples, age 60, who are going to see their health insurance go up to $33,000. It's just not sustainable. They're going to make the risky decision to go without health insurance, and that means we're all going to pay higher premiums. These premium tax credits have worked to make health care affordable for millions of Americans. We know that there are reforms that need to be made, and that's what this group is about. It's basically us deciding that we're going to come together, we're going to work. It's not a red issue, it's not a blue issue. It's an issue about making sure people have access to health care. And that's why I'm so proud to stand with all these members who are really committed to finding a solution. Not everyone's going to like our framework, but it is something that we're committed to make sure that we work together, because preserving affordable health care is important to each and every one of our constituents. Thank you. Juan Ciscomani is next.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here, and welcome to our message here this morning. I want to thank my colleagues for being here, and Representative Gottheimer and Kiggins for leading the charge on this. Rising costs across the board have already put pressure on Americans all across the country, and these premiums increases will only worsen the issue for so many Americans. The reality is that we're now facing a critical timeline where people, through no fault of their own, will pay the consequences if policymakers do not act. We could sit here and argue about how we got here, but that's not for today. That's for another day. That right now, it's our responsibility to act. Doing nothing is not an option in the circumstances. This is a short-term way to address this emergency, and there's longer-term policy that on the reform that we're going to work on later. But I'm committed to doing the work today. This period, right now, this proposal calls for action for both chambers to engage with House members ahead of a potential December vote. It also urges members ahead of this discussion and urges everyone on the group's consideration of the Common Ground 2025, the bipartisan healthcare framework that was described by my colleagues before me, and you can see on the chart as well. So our effort is a practical and bipartisan way to improve the lives of our constituents, lowering cost, increasing accountability, and providing the certainty that families need and they also deserve. The time to act is now, and that's what we're here to do. Thank you. And with that, I would like to introduce my colleague, Congresswoman Schulten. Thank you.
Thanks, Juan. Good morning. I'm Congresswoman Hillary Scholten, proudly representing Michigan's 3rd congressional district in Congress. As a mom of 2 school-aged kids, working family, I can tell you firsthand the affordability crisis is crippling the American dream, and we have to act. Healthcare costs are the #1 issue that American families are struggling with every single day. Prior to the passage of the Affordable Care Act, healthcare costs were the leading cause of personal bankruptcy in the United States of America. We have just 27 days until these health insurance premiums expire. 9 session days. Time is not on our side. We have to act. This is not just a Republican or a Democratic issue. This is an American issue. New polling out today shows that the vast majority of Americans want us to act to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, including 95% of Democrats, 84% of independents, and even 72% of Republicans. This is a deeply bipartisan issue. And if we fail to act, health insurance premiums will rise by close to double for many people across the country. For so many people, that means that they'll be forced to choose to go without health insurance, disproportionately impacting small business owners, young people who have aged out of their parents' insurance, and older Americans who have retired but are not yet eligible for Medicare. The time to act is now. I'm so proud to join this group of bipartisan lawmakers coming up with solutions. Thank you all for joining us today. With that, I'd like to invite Monica De La Cruz up to the podium to speak. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Monica De La Cruz, and I have the honor of representing Deep South Texas, where the median income is just over $50,000. Many people in my district rely on these credits. We must address the rising cost to healthcare, and that's why I am glad to be working alongside members of both sides of the aisle to put together and put forward common sense, responsible policies that will lower healthcare costs and give families options. As my colleague said, this is not a red issue or a blue issue. This is a red, white, and blue issue. It is an American policy that affects everybody in our nation. We are urging leadership to consider our plan for a 2-year extension of the health insurance premium savings to lower costs for patients. I'm looking forward to continuing the discussion with both the House and Senate leadership. Thank you.
Don't worry about it.
Sorry.
No worries at all. Hi, I'm Sam Liccardo. I am honored to come before you at a time when we know just 28 days from now, 22 million Americans are going to see their health premiums more than double. We need to make America affordable again. I am grateful to this bipartisan coalition for coming together to put forward a very good plan. There are many good ideas out there. I was proud to join 5 Republicans and 5 Democrats in putting forward the Let's Get It Done Act. Very similar provisions. That particular bill includes provisions that will actually pay for the extensions, which I also think is very important, through Savings and Medicare Advantage. We have a lot of good ideas out there. The important thing is that we get the Senate moving in a bipartisan way, as we see here in the House. And I'm grateful for the leadership, certainly of Josh and Jen, in pushing us together and forward. With that, I would like to introduce Congressman Jeff Van Drew. Oh, there we go. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. It's good to be with you. I want to thank Josh and Jen as well. We all worked on it, but they did the lion's share of work, and it's not easy dealing with a bunch of Republicans and Democrats together, so I appreciate them. It isn't, let's face it, it's the truth. I'm a very blunt person, so some of you are probably surprised to see me here. I am conservative, I am a Republican, I have certain values and beliefs, but I have to tell you what I believe in as well. And it's based upon my interaction with lots of people, not only in my district, but around the country. This truly is an issue that affects all Americans, American families, American patients, and we don't want them to suffer. And we have a responsibility. You know, the American people that live in our respective districts, they didn't create this problem. In all honesty, politicians created this problem. Now, I'm going to be blunt again. I do not like the Affordable Care Act. I don't. And it's fraught with all kinds of problems. There's a lot of corruption, and I think you're going to hear more about that in the upcoming hearings, including the committee that I chair. But that's not the point today, and that's not the discussion for today. So there's a couple takeaways in my mind out of this. Yes, we do have to change the ACA and the ACA tax credits. Insurance and the cost of it, it's been a great boon for insurance companies, and it's helped certain agents, some of whom are not even legal and appropriate, and certain brokers. It hasn't been good. But ladies and gentlemen, we have a responsibility. And right now, in the short term, people deserve to have their insurance. They must keep some form of insurance that is about equal to what they have so that they can continue to work, continue to raise their families, continue to live. This is a really important thing. So I believe that we have 2 responsibilities. One, to have a bridge for the American people. This bridge would allow them to keep their health insurance. I think the second responsibility we have is to do much, much better with health care. So what this enables, this is a good bill. And this is a good bill, and there are other good bills. And what these bills enable us to do is to work on, I hope to God we really do it. Quite frankly, I wish we didn't have, 43 days off. We could have worked on health care that entire time, but here we are. So it should give us the time to produce a plan that maybe, hopefully, most of us can agree on, but to produce a plan that's more responsible than the ACA and the ACA tax credits.
All right. So, a bipartisan announcement of a health care plan, including Hampton Roads area 2nd District Representative Jen Kiggins. She said she has 40,000 in her district who will rely on health care that could be in jeopardy if we reach the deadline on ACA extensions. And so this bipartisan group working to create a health care plan that is beneficial for all Americans, and they spoke a lot about how this is not a red issue, this is not a blue issue, and they are now working together. The definition of compromise was even read out at one point. So those lawmakers working together to find a health care system and a health care plan that works for all Americans, and we will continue to keep you updated on the details of that plan as we learn more in the coming days and weeks. For now, we're going to go out to a live event in Austin, Texas. Police investigating the mysterious death of a Texas A&M student who died after a football tailgate this weekend. Let's go out to the authorities in Austin, Texas.
We are hoping for, and that is this case. Please know that careful investigations take time. We must interview witnesses, collect evidence, and piece together facts. Releasing partial information too early can jeopardize the integrity of that case. I want to assure everyone that our team worked around the clock. These guys do not sleep. They worked around the clock on this case. And many of them are parents themselves. We used every available resource, interviewed numerous people, gathered evidence because we too want to understand what happened to Brianna, who was clearly loved by so many. I want to thank our homicide unit and victim services for their thorough work on this investigation and providing support for everyone that has been involved. I'm now going to turn it over to Detective Marshall, who will walk us through the timeline.
Morning. First, I'd like to start off by saying that our deepest sympathies and condolences go out to Brianna and her family. During this investigation, I've had a chance to speak with numerous members of her family and friend group, both here in Austin and College Station and in Laredo. All of them, it's completely apparent that she was very much loved. Every friend and witness during this investigation has been nothing but forthcoming and open during the entire time I've spoken with them. I've been in contact with dozens of people over the past week, and every single one of them has answered my calls, my text, submitted to interviews, and helped give answers from the moment that I've asked for that help. This also includes several people submitting to second interviews freely and without hesitation. The location this happened at, the 21 Rio Apartments, have also been helpful since the very beginning of this investigation. They've allowed us around-the-clock access to the apartment which Brianna was last seen at, as well as access to their internal camera system, which has been very beneficial in establishing a timeline of that evening's events. On Saturday, November 29th, at approximately 12:46 a.m., the Austin police officers responded to a call of a deceased person located at 2101 Rio Grande Street. The decedent, later identified as Brianna Aguilera, was located on the ground with trauma consistent to having fallen from a higher floor. Brianna was pronounced deceased at 12:56 a.m. I, along with crime scene specialists, responded to process the scene and interview witnesses. A witness informed officers that they had heard a sound of a thud and then observed a female on the ground. Initially, it was unknown who the decedent was and on what floor she had fallen. The medical examiner arrived on scene, and the body was taken to the medical examiner's office, where she was later positively identified. In the meantime, I was able to contact one of the employees at the 21 Rio Apartments at approximately 6 a.m. that same morning. The staff at 21 Rio were cooperative throughout this entire investigation. By approximately 10 a.m., we were able to access the camera's system inside the apartment complex, which shows us the hallway areas. It was found that Brianna had arrived at the apartment complex just after 11 p.m. on Friday, November 28th, and that she went into a specific apartment on the 17th floor. Video surveillance has confirmed that a large group of friends left that same apartment at 12:30 a.m. on November 29th, leaving just Brianna and 3 other girls in the apartment. Now, on Saturday, November 29th, at approximately 12:54 p.m., I, along with patrol officers, made contact with the residents of that specific apartment that Brianna had been observed going into. The residents informed me that they were trying to report that their friend Brianna was missing. I was able later to confirm they had in fact placed a 911 call at 12:14 p.m. earlier that afternoon to report their friend Brianna was missing. They informed me that they were hosting friends for the Texas A&M football game and that Brianna was supposed to be staying there that preceding evening. I spoke with 3 different female witnesses on scene, as well as later a 4th witness who had left earlier that morning. The investigation showed that Brianna had been at a tailgate party earlier in the day and became intoxicated to a point that she was asked to leave the same tailgate. She had told her friends that she had lost her phone at some point near that tailgate. They had all returned to the apartment where Brianna borrowed a phone of a friend to call an out-of-town boyfriend. Witnesses heard Brianna arguing on the phone with her boyfriend, which was also confirmed later by the boyfriend. Phones from both the phone Brianna used and the boyfriend's phone have confirmed through call logs that call did occur. Now, this call occurred at approximately 12:43 to 12:44 a.m., approximately 1 minute. This is 2 minutes before the 911 call of the body found down below on the pavement. On Saturday, November 29th, it was found that Brianna's mother, Stephanie Rodriguez, had called the Austin Police Department at 12:50 p.m. This was in an attempt to locate Brianna. Rodriguez called back an hour later at 2 p.m. stating the location of her daughter's missing phone. The phone was located by Austin police officers in a wooded area by 3:30 p.m. that afternoon near Walnut Creek in a field by the Austin Rugby Club. Through this investigation, it was found that Brianna had attended the tailgate on Friday, November 28th at the Austin Rugby Club, arriving between 4 and 5 p.m. and then leaving at approximately 10 p.m. Witnesses stated that after Brianna was asked to leave the tailgate, she had repeatedly dropped her phone and staggered into a nearby wooded area where her phone and other items were later located by Austin police. Just after 4 p.m. on Saturday, November 29th, officers from the scene paged homicide to inform them that they had located the property belonging to Brianna and determined that there was also a separate deceased person call with the same name. Rodriguez was notified of Brianna's death just before 5 p.m. Brianna's phone was placed with the rest of her property still on the 17th floor of the apartment for her family to later receive. On Monday, December 1st, the mother and father of Brianna met with victim services and those of us in the homicide office at police headquarters. There, Rodriguez turned over Brianna's phone and gave it back to us. A further review of Brianna's phone shows a deleted digital suicide note dated Tuesday, November 25th of this year, which was written to specific people in her life. From the moment this call originated up until now, between all of the witness statements, all of the video evidence, and all of the digital evidence collected, at no time did any evidence point to this being anything of a criminal nature. Rather, our investigation has revealed that unfortunately Brianna had made suicidal comments previously to friends back in October of this year. This continued through the evening of her death with some self-harming actions earlier in the evening and a text message to another friend indicating the thought of suicide. We recognize that hearing news like this can be difficult and may affect members of the community in very personal ways. If you or someone you know is experiencing emotional distress or mental health struggles, support is available. You can call or text 988 to reach the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, or contact Integral Care's 24-hour helpline at 512-472-HELP. That's 512-472-4357 to be connected with local crisis services, including mobile response teams. No one should have to navigate these kind of crises alone. Any questions?
Now open it up for questions.
Oh, you're not to pick?
Joe. Go ahead, Brianna.
Couple things. Was the mom made aware of these previous suicidal comments when you guys figured that out during the investigation? And I know a big part of this is trying to address some online speculation, so just wanted to bring up something that people have brought up about concerns about fights that Brianna may have gotten in with other people in that apartment. Can you address this?
The first part first. I was in contact with Brianna's mother beginning Saturday afternoon. We spoke through Sunday and Monday through the meeting here. Since then, I've attempted 4 times to contact her. I wanted to share this information privately. She did not reply to any of my attempts to talk to her until yesterday afternoon, where she asked me to talk to her lawyer. So I have not been in contact with her mother. However, her father I have been in contact with. He knows all of this information as of yesterday. And then secondly, the fight.
Yeah.
There have been online reports of a fight. The only evidence that we have of any kind of physical altercation was Brianna punching one of her friends as they tried to help her out of the party. We have no evidence of any other altercation.
Did the witnesses that y'all talked to give any reason why they didn't call 911 earlier that night?
So most of those witnesses, between the time of night that it was, they slept for some periods of time. They do have some text messages. They were worried. They assumed, because so many friends from their hometown were here in Austin staying at different locations, they had assumed she probably just went back out with another friend group that was in the immediate area, and nobody had any idea.
Did anyone watch her go over the balcony?
No, ma'am. No, we have no evidence to suggest that.
Can you share more about that deleted note that you mentioned? When was that deleted, and do you have information about how that was deleted?
So that phone is currently with our digital forensics units to be processed. It is being processed as of last night. I just know the date of it. I don't know exactly when it was typed, but I found it in the deleted items folder, and that's about all I can say at this point.
The date from the deleted item was from November the 25th, so it appears that's when it was written.
In the absence of the chatter that happened online about this, how would you have handled this investigation?
I hated the chatter as probably as much as her family and everybody and the living witnesses hate it. The problem is I can't make a public statement until I interview everyone, and several of these people we had interviewed 2 times. Video takes hours and hours not only to get, but then to go through and process and look at. Her phone takes hours to go through. I've never been a part of an investigation that's happened as fast as I wanted to. We've always wanted to go faster, but in this case, so many people knew her, so many people wanted to help us. Just to dig through all that information, unfortunately, it has taken 3 or 4 days.
How certain would you say y'all are, certain y'all are in this determination?
Just every investigation, we have to rely on the evidence, and all evidence in this case is indicative of suicide.
Can you share a little bit more about who was inside the apartment at the time that she fell, and were you able to speak with all of those people?
I won't share their names, obviously. Yes, I've been able to speak with every single person in there, all of them multiple times, actually, throughout this. They were just all friends. Again, this is all a large friend group from Laredo.
Is there anything that you can share about what she was last seen wearing? I've heard from a couple of people that they were questioning some of the wardrobe that was seen after the fact.
I'll speak to that. She was found wearing the same stuff she was wearing at the tailgate. Part of the reason it took 4 hours for the video surveillance, she was wearing something slightly different when she arrived back at the apartment. So that kind of threw things off to actually locate her. But she was wearing the exact same stuff from earlier in the evening.
It took a bit, I would say, to notify the mom. Was that because y'all had to go through ME and do the identification, or what kind of was that?
Sure. Yeah, it took a while to positively identify her, but on top of that, as Detective Marshall had mentioned, about around 2 p.m. on that Saturday is when they'd actually set the gears in motion to try to notify her. So she had called about 12:50, and she was notified that same afternoon.
We'll take 2 more questions.
You mentioned an argument with her boyfriend before her death. How soon did that happen before her death, and were you able to make contact with him as well?
So I have spoken with him multiple times. That phone call happened approximately 2 minutes before the 911 call of her reporting her on the sidewalk.
Part of her mom's questioning is that you talked to friends or people that were in the apartment till Sunday. Can you, maybe you said it in the timeline, can you tell us again when you started talking to people?
We first identified the apartment very late morning, early afternoon on Saturday. We talked to them immediately that very same time. And like I said, since then we've spoken multiple times to everyone that was in the apartment.
They were a little bit different of a question, but she is 19 and underage. For any people, just gotta ask, any people being investigated for supplying the alcohol to her?
That would be a better question for Texas Alcohol Beverage Commission, TABC. I've been in very brief contact with them, but I don't know the status of anything that they're doing.
Thank y'all.
All right, so a tragic case, no matter how you look at it, in Austin, Texas. That press conference, of course, not giving any confirmation, but giving a great deal of information about what may have happened to Brianna Aguilera, a Texas A&M student who passed away the night after a tailgate in Austin, Texas. We'll keep you updated if there are more updates that we get on that case, as it sounds like there is more investigation to be done, or at least more conclusions to be officially reached and confirmed. So again, we will keep you posted on that. Now let's go to an event that happened earlier today. This was a meeting with the CDC, or conducted by the CDC rather, regarding hepatitis B vaccines. Now, this is a CDC vaccine meeting. It's a federal vaccine advisory committee, and they're discussing whether newborns should still get the hepatitis B vaccine. Now, since 1991, the recommendation is that all babies be vaccinated against the liver infection, that's hepatitis B, within 24 hours of birth. The second dose between 1 and 2 months, the third dose between 6 and 8 months. Now, this advisory committee will be led by Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. for this meeting today. During a Senate hearing in June, physician Senator Bill Cassidy said before the 1991 recommendation, as many as 20,000 babies contracted Hep B from their mothers in utero or during birth every year. That's compared to today, when fewer than 20 babies every year get Hep B from their mother. So let's listen in on the recording of the CDC Advisory Committee meeting on the hepatitis B vaccine right now.
Thank you, Mina. So I'd like to read an opening statement today. Good morning. My name is Dr. Robert Malone. I'll be serving as your meeting chairperson over the next 2 days. I want to start by thanking all ACIP members, working group members, and support staff for being here and for the work you've been doing in preparation for this week's meeting. I know it's not been trivial. This is my 3rd meeting since beginning service as an ACIP member, and it's an honor to open this meeting today. We have a full schedule over the next 2 days, and before we start, I wish to highlight and specifically thank the members of the Hepatitis B Vaccine and Childhood Vaccine Schedule working groups operating under the leadership of Dr. Vicki Pebsworth, particularly those that freely shared expertise and advice relating to hepatitis B vaccines, adjuvants, and related clinical and public health policies. The work we have done to prepare for today relies upon internal work group discussions, but form the basis for what will be discussed and the recommendations we will make to the CDC Acting Director. Dr. Martin Koldorf, our guide for the previous 2 meetings, has now moved up from the ACIP to serve inside the HHS as a key advisor to the Secretary, and Dr. Kirk Milhound, who was first introduced at the last meeting, will now serve as chairperson. Speaking personally, I have known Kirk as well as his amazing wife, Dr. Kim Milhound, for a few years now, and when asked, I endorsed his appointment without reservation. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Kirk Milhound as the next chairperson of the ACIP. He is eminently qualified. I'll be serving as chairperson for this initial meeting under his guidance, as Kirk is attending virtually, as you know. According to the ACIP charter, the main duty of the vice chair is to serve as interim chairperson when the appointed chair is not able to attend the meeting in person. I can assure you that Kirk has been very active in providing leadership since his appointment while maintaining his busy clinical practice as a pediatrician and pediatric cardiologist. I want to formally open this meeting by acknowledging the principles that must guide ACIP's work. These are key: evidence, transparency, and a willingness to look critically at the data before us to ensure that the recommendations we make are grounded in evidence-based science and best medical practices. The primary mission of the ACIP committee is to provide independent advice, I underscore independent, to the CDC director. Our responsibility when developing advice is to evaluate the totality of the evidence as it exists today, with scientific rigor, intellectual honesty, and courage, to ask and answer the hard questions. Once we reach a majority opinion, we're also tasked with clearly communicating our advice and reasoning to both of our key clients, 2 key clients, I want to emphasize, the CDC director and the American public. Many of you will recall that in September, ACIP deferred a vote on proposed changes to the hepatitis B vaccination schedule. That decision was not about hesitation or reluctance. It was about standards. Several data elements the committee requested were incomplete, and the evidence did not yet meet the level of clarity required for a confident, evidence-based recommendation. When gaps in the evidence emerge, the responsible action is not to push forward. It's to pause, review, ensure that we fully understand what the data can and cannot support, and then formulate independent advice to the CDC director. This is our charter. Since that meeting, CDC formed a dedicated hepatitis B work group to examine the outstanding issues in greater depth. That group has been working diligently, I can attest to that. Many hours have been invested since then in preparation for this meeting. By the way, I'm not able to disclose the nuance of that work group, but it is quite diverse in membership and represents a full spectrum of opinion regarding hepatitis B vaccination. Their work has helped sharpen the questions we need to answer and improve the quality of the discussion we will have today. I want to emphasize this is exactly how the scientific process is supposed to function. When data are complete, we say so. When additional analysis is needed, we conduct it. When assumptions need to be revisited, we revisit them. We're not here to reach quick conclusions. We're here to reach accurate ones and to provide independent assessment and advice to the director and to the public. Today's agenda reflects the complexity of the issues before us. My hope is that we approach each discussion the same way we approached the COVID-19 vaccine issues in September, with seriousness, clarity, and a willingness to challenge our own prior assumptions. ACIP's credibility depends on our commitment to a deliberative, transparent, evidence-based process. You'll see that in play during the discussions today and tomorrow. Finally, I want to acknowledge in particular the CDC staff and external experts who support this committee. Their technical work, from surveillance to modeling to implementation research, is essential. The ACIP depends on their diligence, and all of the appointed members are grateful for their contributions and for all the contributions of the career staff across HHS, including in our affiliate organizations at FDA and NIH. Thank you again for the work that you do and for the integrity you bring to this process. We have a full agenda today, and I look forward to a thoughtful and productive discussion. Thank you for your time. Now, with that, I now call to the floor Dr. Vicki Pebsworth, who is representing the ACIP Childhood and Adolescent Immunization Schedule Work Group, to discuss the policy context and schedule comparison relating to hepatitis B. Do we have those slides? Take it away.
Good morning. Thank you, everyone. And I'd like to respond to what Dr. Malone said about thanking the CDC staff because they have been very helpful. We could not have done the work we did without their assistance. So I'd like to begin by just also acknowledging that the Childhood Adolescent Schedule Work Group is the umbrella work group, and there was then a hepatitis B sub-work group formed to deal with the question that was asked of us. And there are 4 of the work group members here present, Dr. Evelyn Griffin, Dr. Kirk Milhone, and Dr. Tracy Beth Hogue were members and served on the work group. So they'll be stepping in and helping to answer the questions that will be coming up. So we were asked to focus on one group, newborn infants born to mothers who test negative for hepatitis B surface antigen during pregnancy, not newborn infants born to mothers who test positive. Thus, we primarily focused on a vaccination dose given at a specific time, the birth dose, the dose given to all newborns within hours of birth. The literature we reviewed mainly involved the 2 U.S. licensed single antigen hepatitis B virus vaccines, not the combination vaccines containing hepatitis B antigen that are given later in infancy. Next slide. This morning's presentation is divided into 3 sections. I will cover the introduction and policy context, and then Dr. Cynthia Neveson will cover the burden of disease and efficacy, followed by Mark Blaxel, who will address the safety portion of the presentation. Next slide. According to the ACIP's charter, vaccines are supposed to be reviewed on a periodic basis. The ACIP Childhood Adolescent Schedule Work Group was tasked with assessing the current recommended schedule, including the use of a universal birth dose of hepatitis B vaccine in children whose mothers test negative for hepatitis B surface antigen at delivery. So why are we here? In addition to needing to review hepatitis B because it had been so long since we had reviewed it, we're doing this because of concerns that have been raised by some groups. The current policy is misaligned relative to existing recommendations in most other developed countries. And again, the prolonged time since the last review per ACIP's charter. Next slide, please. So how did we get to where we are now? Several key events shaped the current landscape. A rapid rise in reported acute U.S. cases of hepatitis B, which is a source of very serious liver disease. Licensure of a plasma-based vaccine in 1981 that targeted high-risk groups. Emergence of new technologies and changes in vaccine-related liability. Evolution of ACIP recommendations during the 1980s. Dissatisfaction with the high-risk groups targeting strategy, which had led to an ambitious new hepatitis B eradication strategy. And lastly, the leap in 1991 to adopt the universal birth dose recommendation. Next slide. This slide shows what was going on with hepatitis B. It shows that over a 25-year period, reported cases jumped from a few thousand to well over 25,000. This happened for two main reasons. First, rising transmission of acute hepatitis B due to bloodborne exposures in high-risk groups. In the 1960s, there was unscreened, blood-infected patients with frequent transfusions, followed by a rise in the 1970s of dialysis-based transmission, and then into the 1980s, there were expanding sexual networks of men having sex with men and higher female-to-male partner counts, along with rising IV drug use and heroin usage expanding outward from urban pockets. Second, at the same time, there was a surge of immigration from high endemicity areas in Southeast Asia after the end of the Vietnam War. 1.5 million refugees from Indochina, which significantly increased the reservoir of chronic disease carriers. Next slide, please. Factors that affected the policy shifts. In response to the hepatitis B crisis in 1981, the FDA approved a new plasma-based vaccine for hepatitis B virus, the first vaccine against hepatitis, and it was judged as highly effective. Concerns emerged about the safety of the donor source material. Only 6 years later, a new vaccine based on a recombinant technology platform, rather than donor plasma, was licensed by the FDA. It was a hepatitis B antigen-based product manufactured in yeast. Concerns about liability for pediatricians and manufacturers about the new recombinant vaccine were removed following the passage of the 1986 National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act. Next slide. So this was the context when an important editorial titled "Worldwide Elimination of Hepatitis B Transmission, We Have the Way, We Have the Will," was published in JAMA in April 1989 by Dr. Hal Morgan and Dr. Donald Francis from the CDC, both of whom are public health leaders. They reasoned that if vaccinations were given universally at birth to infants in populations that have a high rate of perinatal hepatitis B virus transmission, and with childhood immunizations to infants in other parts of the world, a worldwide cohort of persons protected from this long-term infection would be established. And in the United States, selective immunization of groups at risk of infection has not been effective in lowering the overall incidence of the disease, and immunization strategies targeted at both infants and adolescents should be considered if we are to control this disease. This statement typified and created a rationale for opening the door to vaccinating infants who were not at high risk of infection. Next slide, please. This chart shows the evolution of ACIP recommendations. In 1982, only infants of hepatitis B positive mothers were recommended to receive HBIG, the hepatitis B immunoglobulin, at birth and then be vaccinated at 3 months. In 1984, 3 months was changed to 7 days. In 1985, both HBIG and the vaccine were to be given within 12 hours of birth. In 1987, the first recombinant hepatitis B vaccine was licensed. And finally, in 1991, ACIP recommended that all infants, even those born to hepatitis B surface antigen negative mothers, be vaccinated before hospital discharge or no later than 2 months. But 14 years later, in 2005, the 2-month option was removed, and all infants were to be vaccinated within 12 to 24 hours of birth. Next slide, please. So what are we trying to accomplish today? First, we need to address stakeholder and parent dissatisfaction that we have become aware of. Second, we need to report on the work group's review. More on that later today. Third, we need to consider whether there are immunization policies that are better aligned with other countries similar to ours, are based on evidence and support the need of high-risk persons and populations without treating everyone as if they were genetically the same, and explicitly consider public health and vaccination ethics. Next slide. The work group was asked to assess the use of a universal birth dose of hepatitis B vaccine in children whose mothers are hepatitis B surface antigen negative. As noted in the work group's terms of reference document, basically our scope of work, which states that the work group will review the efficacy and safety of the immunization schedule for children and adolescents, identify efficacy and safety problems, and address stakeholder concerns. To that end, in our TOR, 2 Institute of Medicine reports are cited. First, the 2002 report, Multiple Immunizations and Immune Dysfunction, where over 20 years ago, 1/4 of parents expressed concern about the number of immunizations children were receiving and concluded that concern about multiple immunizations has been and continued to be of societal significance in terms of parental worries, potential health burdens, and future challenges for immunization policymaking. Second, in the 2013 report, the Childhood Immunization Schedule and Safety, Stakeholder Concerns, Scientific Evidence, and Future Studies, directs DHHS to incorporate study of the safety of the overall childhood immunization schedule into its processes for setting priorities for research, recognizing stakeholder concerns, and establishing the priorities on the basis of epidemiological evidence, biological plausibility, and feasibility. Next slide, please. As it relates to stakeholder concerns, the work group reviewed the literature and identified 2 relevant surveys that we'd like to comment on now. First, there was a 2014 survey of Oregon parents, and this is a survey of hospitalized just after birth newborns. 5% of parents in that survey refused the hepatitis B birth dose. 8% wanted to wait. 6% were undecided. The reasons why they gave for these preferences were that 78.1% thought that the baby was too young, 70% discussed vaccine safety concerns, 43.8% said the baby was at low risk of infection. Another more recent survey conducted by the Kaiser Family Foundation and the Washington Post of parental attitudes about vaccines found, this was just in October, found that 13% had skipped or delayed the hepatitis B vaccine, 16% had skipped or delayed other vaccines, and the reasons for doing so were they were concerned about side effects, 53% had doubts about safety, 51% said that vaccines were not necessary, 42% were not wanting multiple shots, 35% said safety testing was lacking, and 26% said CDC recommends too many vaccines. 41% wanted to space out the shots, and 58% said little or no confidence in the federal agencies. Next slide, please.
Okay, so that was a look at the CDC's advisory committee meeting on hepatitis B vaccines. Now, we know that was in the weeds, right? I mean, they are really getting into a lot of the nitty-gritty, including surveys of parents and policies throughout the years and how that has impacted the spread of hepatitis B. We know that is detailed and that it is, again, very in-depth, but with it being such a hot button topic and with it being something that continues to receive scrutiny here in the United States, we want to make sure that we're touching on those things and we're listening in, and we hope that it is productive and informative. We do know from NPR a report that delaying the birth dose of hepatitis by just 2 months could result in at least 1,400 additional preventable cases of hepatitis B for each year that the revised recommendation is in place. Now, that's according to new analysis. Delaying the vaccine until age 12 could result in at least 2,700 preventable infections each year, according to that same analysis. That is a report from NPR.org. So, again, that advisory meeting happening, still more to come. As you saw, that was just getting started, but we wanted to come back here in the Live Impact News studio, move on to some of the other major stories we've been covering this week, including a story that has been in the headlines for multiple days this week, and that is President Donald Trump's continued attacks on the Somali community in Minnesota specifically and in the United States. This has been going on for some time now. We know that there have been announcements that immigration enforcement officials are going to Minnesota, specifically with a focus on the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, and St. Paul, and again, specifically with a focus on finding undocumented Somali immigrants, right? So ICE officials in Minnesota targeting undocumented Somali immigrants. We saw mayors from both Minneapolis and St. Paul come out in a press conference that we listened to right here on Live Impact News, who expressed support for the Somali community and who expressed concern about the indiscriminate enforcement that could come against the entire community if these enforcements were to be carried out in Minnesota the way that they have been announced. We want to also give you some statistics on that community here in the United States. There are an estimated 260,000 people of Somali descent here in the U.S. In Minneapolis and St. Paul, there's about 84,000. 58% of Somalis in Minnesota were born right here in the United States, those of Somali descent. 87% of foreign-born Somalis that are in Minnesota are naturalized United States citizens. So those are some numbers on the actual community in Minnesota. Let's listen to President Donald Trump's comments from earlier this week on the Somali community, as he has had continued attacks throughout the week. Let's take a listen now, and then we'll follow up when we get back in the studio.
And when you look at what he's done with Somalia, which is barely a country, they have no anything. They just run around killing each other. There's no structure. And when I see somebody like Ilhan Omar, who I don't know at all, but I always watch her for years. I've watched her complain about our Constitution, how she's being treated badly. Our Constitution, the United States of America, is a bad place. Hates everybody, hates Jewish people, hates everybody. And I think she's an incompetent person. She's a real terrible person. But when I watch what is happening in Minnesota, the land of 1,000 lakes, or however many lakes they have, they got a lot of lakes. But this beautiful place, and I see these people ripping it off. And now I'm understanding, and you're going to look at that's. I hear they ripped off Somalians, ripped off that state for billions of dollars, billions, every year, billions of dollars, and they contribute nothing. The welfare is like 88%. They contribute nothing. I don't want them in our country, I'll be honest with you, okay? Somebody would say, oh, that's not politically correct. I don't care. I don't want them in our country. Their country's no good for a reason. Their country stinks, and we don't want them in our country. I could say that about other countries, too. I can say it about other countries, too. We don't want them to hell. We have to rebuild our country. Our country's at a tipping point. We could go bad. We're at a tipping point. I don't know if people mind me saying that, but I'm saying it. We could go one way or the other, and we're going to go the wrong way if we keep taking in garbage into our country. Ilhan Omar is garbage. She's garbage. Her friends are garbage. These aren't people that work. These aren't people that say, let's go, come on, let's make this place great. These are people that do nothing but complain. They complain. And from where they came from, they got nothing. You know, they came from paradise, and they said, this isn't paradise. But when they come from hell, and they complain and do nothing but, we don't want them in our country. Let them go back to where they came from and fix it.
Okay, so those are comments from President Trump at a cabinet meeting. Now, you heard him taking direct aim at Representative Ilhan Omar, who represents a major Somali community in Minnesota. Okay, you heard you calling her out by name. This is something he has done before. President Trump has repeatedly attacked Representative Omar. She's a Minnesota Democrat, and she actually represents the largest Somali American population in the United States. And again, this is not the first time that President Donald Trump has attacked her by name throughout the course of his presidencies. Now, she also had comments that she posted on her social media account that we're going to listen to right now, and then we will listen to follow-up comments that came from President Trump after this. For now, let's listen to Representative Omar in response to continued attacks on both her as an individual and on the community of Somali people in Minnesota.
He's always been a racist, a bigot, a xenophobic, and Islamophobic. We know that he called African nations a shithole in his first administration. We know that when he came down that escalator, he said he was going to stop Muslim immigration into this country. And so it is not surprising that he is going after black immigrants in this country. And it's certainly not surprising that he's choosing a black immigrant community that is also Muslim. But what I would like to say is that most of us are citizens. On our passport, it says we are nationals of this country. We love that Minnesota has welcomed us. Many of us have not been settled in Minnesota. We chose it as a home because the Minnesota people and the state is beautiful and very welcoming, and we are going to be here regardless of what the president has to say.
Excuse me. There you have it from Representative Omar. Now, first thing we'd like to do is apologize for the foul language that was on our air right there. We did not mean for that language to come across our air. That is an error on our part. We apologize for anyone who had to hear that that did not want to hear that type of language. Now, Representative Omar saying President Donald Trump racist and xenophobic in his remarks. She attacked him and the entirety of the Somali community in Minnesota. And as we have said repeatedly, ICE, immigration reform, immigration enforcement is expected to be headed to Minnesota, allegedly in Minneapolis and St. Paul specifically, to target undocumented Somali immigrants. Now, more comments from President Donald Trump later in the week on this topic. Let's listen in on those.
The mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Frey, is saying that he's actually proud to have the largest Somali community in the country, and his police chief.
Well, then he's a fool.
Well, his police chief is also
I
saying
wouldn't be
that
proud. That beautiful state, it's a hellhole right now, and the Somalians should be out of here. They've destroyed our country, and all they do is complain, complain, complain.
Okay, we are going to now. Help me out here, Sarah Calloway. Did that freeze, or do we have another shot that we're going to play as well?
It did not freeze. It was just a clip.
Okay, that was the end of the clip. Okay.
I think I have the full raw version.
Okay, that was it. We're kind of working in real time here to set up these sound bites for you guys. Thank you for bearing with us. That was a short clip, but we have the clip in its entirety here as well. We apologize for the delay.
The mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Frey, is saying that he's actually proud to have the largest Somali community in the country, and his police chief
Well, then he's a fool.
Well, his police chief is
I
also saying
wouldn't be
they
proud
might.
to have the largest Somalian. Look at their nation. Look how bad their nation is. It's not even a nation. It's just people walking around killing each other. Look, these Somalians have taken billions of dollars out of our country. They've taken billions and billions of dollars. They have a representative, Ilhan Omar, who they say married her brother. That's a fraud. She tries to deny it now, but you can't really deny it because, you know, it just happened. She shouldn't be allowed to be a congresswoman, and I'm sure people are looking at that. And she should be thrown the hell out of our country. And most of those people, they have destroyed Minnesota, okay? Minnesota, you have an incompetent governor. You have a crooked governor. He's crooked as hell, but he's incompetent. Walz he should be ashamed. That beautiful land, that beautiful state, it's a hellhole right now. And the Somalians should be out of here. They've destroyed our country. And all they do is complain, complain, complain. You have her. She's always talking about the Constitution provides me with... go back to your own country and figure out your Constitution. All she does is complain about this country. Without this country, she would not be in very good shape. She probably wouldn't be alive right now. So Somalia is considered by many to be the worst country on earth. I don't know. I haven't been there. I won't be there anytime soon, I hope. But what Somalia, what the Somalian people have done to Minnesota is not even believable. It's not even believable. And a lot of it starts with the governor. A lot of it starts with Barack Hussein Obama, because that's when people started coming in. And you have to have people come in that are going to love our country, cherish our country. They want to kiss our country goodnight. They talk about our country. We want them to pray for our country. This is not the people living in Minnesota. And she's a disaster. She should not be, and her friends shouldn't be allowed. Frankly, they shouldn't even be allowed to be congresspeople, okay? They shouldn't even be allowed to be congresspeople because they don't represent the interests of our country. Anybody else?
Okay, so again, more comments from President Donald Trump. And again, we will reiterate, he mentioned the mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Frey, also the mayor of St. Paul, both of whom earlier this week spoke and expressed their pride in the Somali community that they represent and supported the Somali community in their area, noting how beneficial they are to the communities in which they live. So President Donald Trump going after various mayors, Representative Ilhan Omar, and those mayors saying that, again, the Somali community in their cities are very, very productive members of their community. So a back and forth between elected officials, President Donald Trump, and continued attacks from President Donald Trump on the Somali community in Minnesota. And again, 58% of those of Somali descent in Minnesota born right here in the United States. 87% of those who are foreign-born are naturalized United States citizens right here in America. So that is a story that we will continue to monitor. Now, Somalia as a nation shares a border with Kenya, and representatives from Kenya were in Washington, D.C. today for a meeting with administrators at the White House, including Secretary of State Marco Rubio and President Donald Trump. So a unique piece of timing there. Again, Kenya shares a border with Somalia. Representatives from Kenya in Washington, D.C. today to meet with President Donald Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio in the midst of, again, President Donald Trump's repeated attacks on the Somali community in Minnesota. So we have a recording of Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, speaking alongside representatives from Kenya earlier today in Washington, D.C. We're going to play at least the beginning of that video right here now on Live Impact News. 11:29 a.m. We've got 31 minutes left in our stream. Let's head out to Washington, D.C. for right now. Listen in on Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
To be here today for this. This is our... let me first start by thanking you, Mr. President, for being with us today, and for the Minister for being here as well. Kenya is one of our strongest partners in so many different fields. whether it's the fight that we've fought together against terrorism on the continent, but beyond that, in our own hemisphere, Kenya's played an extraordinary role, really heroic role in trying to help stabilize Haiti. It's a very difficult situation. They've carried a huge burden as a country for the better part of 2 years now. And had it not been for their engagement, and I just expressed this to President Ruto, as bad as Haiti is, it would be indescribable what it would look like today were it not for the efforts they've made. Our gratitude for the role they've played is extraordinary. Had it not been for the role they've played, what we are hoping to do next in Haiti would have been impossible, which is to transition to a gang suppression force. And we know there's a transition period, and we're going to be very involved in being helpful in bridging that. And we want them, and we hope to encourage them to continue to be engaged moving forward as we move into this new phase of trying to bring stability to Haiti. But we understand and believe they cannot do it by themselves. So I wanted to use this as an opportunity to continue to encourage countries in the region and around the world to step up and contribute and be a part of this effort. We need their money, we need their funds, and we need their personnel as well to make this work. If we had 5 or 10 countries willing to step forward and do just half of what Kenya has done already, it would be an extraordinary achievement. And we hope that that will happen. It needs to happen. If we're serious about it, it needs to happen. Everybody likes to have press conferences and put out statements about how terrible the situation is in Haiti. It's time to do something about it. And I particularly point to the countries in our hemisphere, in the Western Hemisphere, in the Caribbean Basin and beyond, that we need to step up in this hemisphere and do more. The United States will continue to do its part. But I just wanted to express again our gratitude. Today we're here to announce the first signing that we're going to have with the first country in the world on our America First Global Health Strategy. And I want to, for members of the press and the public that will learn about this through you, walk a little bit, very briefly, into exactly what the thinking is. The United States has spent billions of dollars over the years in helping with health strategies all across the world. What we learned over time, and especially after coming here, is that oftentimes, and I'm oversimplifying it, but this is an accurate description, what would happen is we would go to a country and say, we're going to help you with your health care needs. Then we would drive over to Northern Virginia somewhere, find an NGO, one of these organizations, give them all the money, tell them go to this country and do their health care program for them. That NGO would then take about some percentage of that money for their overhead and administrative costs. And by the time it got down to it, the host country had very little influence. It was sort of imposed on them. And only a percentage of the overall money ever actually reached the patients and the people on the ground that we were trying to help because of these costs. This makes no sense. So why are we hiring American and international NGOs to go into other countries and run healthcare systems that are parallel and sometimes in conflict with the healthcare systems of the host country? If we're trying to help countries, help the country. Don't help the NGO to go in and find a new line of business. And so that's what the model that we're breaking. We're not doing this anymore. We are not going to spend billions of dollars funding the NGO industrial complex while close and important partners like Kenya are either have no role to play or have very little influence over how healthcare money is being spent. Bottom line is, if you want to help a country, work with that country, not work with a third party that imposes things on that country. And so for us, we hope to sign many of these in the days to come. But the first one we're going to sign is with Kenya. And the reason why is twofold. Number one, because of our close partnership. Number two, because they have stable and strong institutions, both in government and in the healthcare sector. And over the next few years, we're going to be investing $1.6 billion in health assistance over the next 5 years. And you'll see how that program works out. But the investment is in combination. It will allow us, first of all, to leverage the private sector to create a sustainable U.S. health assistance model around the world, and not just in Kenya, but this is the perfect place to prove that it's going to work, because it is going to work. And what it means is that money is not just going to be spent to provide medicine and care, it's going to be spent to improve the domestic infrastructure, healthcare infrastructure, so that in 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 years, countries will say, we no longer need this much assistance, if any, because we have our own system, you've helped us to build it, it's now delivering results, and in fact, we now, these third, maybe Kenya, want to go and teach other countries how to do it. And this is a very real possibility, and it's something we believe in. By the way, Kenya, our partner, okay, we're not imposing this, they're our partner. $850 million is what they're going to give to support these efforts. So this is truly a partnership. This is the way we should be doing assistance around the world. True assistance is self-sustainability, building the ability to sustain yourself in the long term. So it's an honor to be able to do this with you today. I'm excited. This is our first one. We hope to sign, I don't know, 30, 40? How many? 50. Okay. Well, this is number one. You'll always remember this one. You always, the first one is the one that, and we think we've picked the perfect partner. I thank you for being here today. I know you're also here. You're going to join us in a few minutes over at the Institute of Peace for another important topic on the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda. So we're grateful you're here for both of these things, but it lined up perfectly. We are honored to welcome you to the State Department, Mr. President, and thank you for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretary Rubio, Secretary of State of the United States, distinguished members of the United States delegation, ladies and gentlemen. For over a quarter of a century, the United States has worked alongside Kenya, investing over $7 billion in well-being, health, and progress of our citizens. This partnership has saved millions from malaria, from HIV/AIDS, tuberculosis, and other life-threatening outbreaks. Together, we have built resilience, restored hope, and supported impactful institutions. Today, we reaffirm this consequential, transformative, and historic partnership, which stands as a testament that becomes possible when two friendly nations unite around a common vision and a shared resolve to make healthcare systems not only stronger, but more resilient and truly sustainable. The framework we signed today adds momentum to my administration's universal health coverage that is focused on supply of modern equipment to our hospitals, efficient and timely delivery of health commodities to our facilities, enhancement of our health workforce, and health insurance for all, leaving no Kenyan behind. This facility will also boost disease surveillance and emergency preparedness. On behalf of the government and people of Kenya, I express profound gratitude to the United States, to President Donald Trump, and to you, Marco, for the commitment of US $1.6 billion to Kenya over the next 5 years. This gesture of goodwill by President Trump on behalf of the American taxpayers reinforce our ongoing mobilization of domestic resources by Kenyans and actors and stakeholders in Kenya to the health sector. And I assure you that every shilling and every dollar will be spent efficiently, effectively, and accountably. And let me say this for the record, that already we are mobilizing our own domestic resources to the tune of $3 billion to support the health deployment of health infrastructure in Kenya. Not just health personnel, we now have 107,000 community health promoters built into the health infrastructure, building from the bottom of the pyramid in every village, in every health center, in every dispensary, and making sure that health does not become a privilege for those who can afford, but a right for every citizen. Thank you very much to President Trump and his foresight and commitment to the relationship that exists between Kenya and the United States, and between the United States and Africa. And let me say this, that as we sign this agreement, the first one ever, we don't take it for granted that many officials have spent many hours in putting this together. I want to commend them, both from the United States and from Kenya, so that we can do the easy job, me and Marco here, to do the final seam of this agreement. Let me also commit that Kenya will continue to be available in Haiti to do what we can to ensure that the experience we have gathered over the last couple of months, running into 2 years now, will be of benefit to the gang suppression force I did promise that we are not going to walk away from Haiti. And I want to say that Kenya would not have succeeded in Haiti if it were not for the support, the friendship, and the partnership of the United States. We look forward, and I join Secretary Marco in encouraging others from across the globe, especially in this region, the Organization of American States, that this is your neighborhood. If they can step forward with personnel, with resources, with equipment, with funding, we can all contribute to helping humanity in Haiti. And Kenya will play our role. We will make sure that there is a smooth transition, and we will play our roles even after that to make sure that we do not lose the gains that have been made. Thank you very much. We will be also participating in one of the most consequential and historic signing in ceremonies in the next event on Eastern DRC that will see stability, peace, and progress achieved as a result of the bringing together of the various teams and creating an ecosystem where our region, the East African region, we can unlock the potential that comes out of the peace and stability that we envisage, and encourage all actors that we work together towards the success of what President Trump has put together. Thank you very much.
Okay, so again, sorry about that. Multiple representatives from Kenya in Washington, D.C., meeting with Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and we do believe, based on the information that we have gotten, scheduled to meet with President Donald Trump. Yes, a trilateral meeting with Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo will be happening later today. So there are a number of different African nations here in Washington, D.C., at the same time that President Donald Trump is directing repeated attacks towards members of the Somali community in Minnesota. So that was a signing ceremony with Kenyan leaders and Secretary Rubio. President Donald Trump scheduled to have a trilateral meeting with Rwanda and the Democratic of Congo later on today, or even right around this time. We'll keep an eye out for any video that may come across our desk regarding that meeting. So both of those things, all of these things happening at the same time during this Thursday. Now, we have a couple of things that we want to get to. The first thing we want to do, we want to briefly pop into an event that happened earlier today. Tomorrow, the FIFA bids, the FIFA draws for the World Cup of 2026 will be announced. That World Cup is going to be happening right here in the United States of America, not far from here. It'll be happening up and down the East Coast, as well as locations in Canada and Mexico. There is a summit happening right now just up the road, and as a part of that summit, they'll be announcing the World Cup draw tomorrow, which is a massive event for all of the nations who are participating. And today, there was a press conference with Transportation Secretary Duffy, former United States soccer star Colby Jones, and others speaking, as we have an entire weekend full of World Cup prep events for the massive international event that's coming up here in the summer of 2026. Let's listen in on that event for a little bit. We'll meet back in the studio, get to one more thing, and then we'll get out of here. About 17 minutes left in the stream. We appreciate everyone watching. Let's get out to the FIFA World Cup Summit.
It's a sport that propelled me to another level, and it's an opportunity for so many different people to experience that same gift. I want to let you know that the pride and the honor that I have to be up here to have participated in the World Cup, and let you know that it truly is indescribable. Having been a part of the games in 1994, I can't underscore the impact that 94 World Cup had on me and had on the entire country. For those of you that maybe weren't around and didn't have the opportunity to be there and weren't a participant during that time, I think we have to look back and understand what soccer was like in 94. It was a sport that not many people knew a whole lot about here within the United States. There was a very passionate group that did understand it. There was a passionate group that was saying, you don't know what's coming your way in '94 when the World Cup is coming. That it is special, that it is a moment that will be indescribable. And let me tell you, it was exactly that. Being part of that '94 team and coming from an era where no one really knew about soccer and there's very little visuals of soccer on TV, it was special to see the '94 World Cup, come to fruition. We went from a situation where there were very few people knowing about soccer to all of a sudden it was like, what's this game? What's it all about? People wanting to be a part of the World Cup. I can remember a particular experience, and this is very LA-centric, because that is where I'm from, that let me know that, wow, this is something special. If you know Los Angeles at all, you know the freeways are always crowded, no matter what. Being part of the team for that '94 World Cup, and this is the moment where I knew this was really something special. We're on the bus, going to training during the World Cup. We're heading to the 5 freeway, and there's no one there. I'm like, wait a sec, what's going on? And then I looked down and saw that the police had stopped the entire 5 freeway, for our bus to drive through smooth to go to training. That was the moment for me where I said, being from LA, okay, we made it. We're here. Everyone's going to love this game and is going to participate in this. But let me tell you, there are some upset people, on the freeway trying to get to work. But that was the moment for me. I really knew that we had made it. 30 plus years later, we have the World Cup coming back to the United States. It is something special. I try to put it, or try to think about it in the way of explaining it to those of us that have children. If you think you know what's going to happen here, you don't know. It's like saying, oh, I've had my first child. Guess what? The second child is going to be just like the first one. No, we know that that's not true. Completely different. This World Cup will be different. It's going to be bigger, better, brighter, more exciting. That's what it's going to come down to. In 1994, for those of you that know, it was a special moment. The whole world's eyes were upon us. Within the United States, everyone got on board and participated and helped out that U.S. team make a special run. Well, in this World Cup, we have double the amount of teams as in 1994. There are going to be 48 teams spread across 3 different countries, where we have the opportunity to bring all of these countries together. Between Mexico, Canada, and the United States, we are going to be celebrating the World Cup here with 48 different teams. This is the opportunity to bring cultures together. This is going to be a special moment, in my humble opinion, where everyone's going to be coming together to celebrate the beautiful game. And as they say, in the old African proverb, it takes a village. Well, that's exactly what it's going to be like for this World Cup. It's going to take a village, and you are all part of that village to make sure that everything is going right within this World Cup and the celebrations can be special for everybody here. This is not only a celebration of the beautiful game, it's a celebration of the 250th anniversary of our nation. So that's a whole nother level where, as I was talking to some people, we do have the opportunity for the U.S. to possibly play on July 4th, where something could be really special and take it to another level. I want all of you to know the games are more than the 90 minutes on the field.
All right, back here in the Live Impact News studio, Kobe Jones at the microphone, a former United States soccer star here from past World Cup teams. Just getting people excited and ready to go for the World Cup that is going to be right here in the United States, Mexico, and Canada come next summer. Quite possibly the one of the great cultural sporting events that we have all coming together right here in the United States. Many of those cities on the East Coast, including New York, Boston, and others. We can do a full list of cities here in the United States. Atlanta, Boston, Dallas, Houston, Kansas City, LA, Miami, New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia, Seattle, and San Francisco will all have World Cup games next summer. And so this is something we'll continue to cover for some time. For now, we want to get the comments from Senator Mark Warner. He had his Virginia media availability earlier today. We want to listen in for as long as we can before the end of our stream. So let's listen in to the senator.
Good morning, everybody, and I'm sorry I'm running a little bit late today. Lots going on. I think I'd start with what's kind of breaking news today, the Inspector General's report on Secretary Hegseth's irresponsible use of signal phones on the strike that took place against Yemen a number of months back. Again, to refresh everybody's memory that may not have followed bits and pieces of this, we had aircraft carrier and other entities in the Eastern Mediterranean, many of them, frankly, home ported in Norfolk. We were striking against the Houthis in Yemen, and Secretary Hegseth gave out all of this information on an unsecure line using his private phone that included not only security officials, but family members. I was outraged in the spring, called for an investigation. I'd heard from sailors' families in Norfolk who were frankly pissed off that their sons and daughters could have been put in harm's way. And, again, so typical of this former Fox broadcaster, he tried to avoid responsibility or, dance around it. Well, the Inspector General's come out and said the following conclusions. One, this was clearly classified information. Two, while the Secretary of Defense has the ability to declassify information, he made no indication at that time, or frankly even afterwards, that he went through any kind of declassification process. Again, somewhat similar to President Trump, that he must have imagined it, and somehow that makes it okay. But his initial comments that there was nothing classified here, clearly 100% wrong. Was classified. He didn't go through the formal process of declassification, and I think it was an embarrassment. And then, most importantly, his actions by doing this kind of unsecure call, and including family members and others, put our sailors in harm's way. And again, I called for the Secretary's removal in the spring. I think the Inspector General's report validates that even more. I'm going to be anxious to get back to Hampton Roads and hear from the sailors and their families what they think about this. But that's not where the story ends. We saw, through the summer, uniformed military, the general in charge of the NSA, the general in charge of the Defense Intelligence Agency fired for political reasons. We saw, the Secretary bring all of the military command to Quantico and lecture them on how to perform. And then we've seen the next crisis, and this is the bombing of the boats in the Caribbean. Again, from the Secretary, we've had 2 or 3 different stories. At first, he thumped his chest and said it was great that he watched this whole bombing incident take place. This was the initial bombing on September 2nd, where 12 people were on the boat. It came out subsequently that while he offered a order to kill them all, we don't know, was that verbal, was it written, it changed and said, no foul here, no second strike, then changed his position and said, well, there was a second strike, but it was ordered by Admiral Bradley, who I will be meeting with today to try to get to the bottom of it. So we're clear. Are we putting, again, sailors in potentially legal jeopardy because the military rules of conflict and international law you don't blow up people that are no longer combatants, even if you accept the fact that there could have been drugs on the boat. If they are in the water swimming, how are they still combatants? I'm going to try to press Admiral Bradley on that this afternoon. And I think what is really the rub here is that, as opposed to being this big tough guy that says the buck stops with me, whenever there's controversy, he tries to pawn it off on someone else. He's now saying he didn't see the whole video, it was responsibility of the Admiral, which is totally different than what he initially said. Again, this is one of those issues where if the administration had simply come clean with the unedited video from day one, this could have been cleared up. But I think what I presume will happen is there was questionable actions here, and I just don't think it's fair that they throw uniformed military under the bus as opposed to taking responsibility. And we've seen 2 or 3 different answers from the president. He didn't know, he did know. It is, again, symptomatic of this administration's national security, which is chaotic at best and downright making Americans less safe across the board. Sure, we'll get questions on that. I do want to just answer one other issue that was clearly predominant in the last number of weeks, seems to have faded a little bit, but we, the Democrats, still believe very strongly that we should not allow the Obamacare coverage subsidies to expire at the end of the year. We're hearing from Virginians every day, 24 million Americans overall that would lose these subsidies. I'm hearing from Virginia families all the time, families who are currently maybe paying, I think the average family about 65 years old that was maybe making 70 grand in Roanoke, paying about average of $600 or $700, $800 a month, could see their premiums go up by $1,000 a month in certain cases. That will be devastating. And it's not only devastating to those families, those Virginians directly, but it's also devastating if you've got traditional health insurance and you're suddenly throwing a whole lot of folks off of the exchanges and back into the emergency room. That's going to drive everybody's costs up, and those will be passed on to people with private insurance. And that's all before the second shoe falls, which is the Medicaid cuts that will take place more close to the end of next year. But it is a double whammy on health care. And when the president keeps saying there's no affordability crisis, well, he obviously has not been talking to Virginians who are going to see their health care rates go up dramatically. We'll have a vote on this next week. The Democrats will propose a simple extension of these subsidies, and if they want to come back and figure out how we can improve them, welcome to it. But you can't fix this as people are right now buying their health insurance. Unfortunately, I don't think that we've seen any serious efforts from the administration or from my Republican colleagues. They've had now 10 plus years to try to come up with a healthcare alternative. They're batting zero. I think they're going to be batting zero next week. You always hope that they come to their senses and we end up with an extension that then we could figure out ways to improve the program. But I'm not very hopeful that will happen by next week. And consequently, what a whole lot of Virginians are going to have for the Christmas holiday is dramatically increased healthcare costs. They're going to put strain on them through next year, and many people will end up opting out of the marketplace and frankly going without health insurance at all, and they're going to end up showing up at emergency rooms that are already overburdened. So with those are some of the comments at the top. Why don't I go ahead and go to Valeria or others, and we'll answer some questions.
All right, so we had just enough time for the opening statement from Senator Mark Warner before he begins to take questions, touching on a number of different topics there. Opening up with the Signal chat from Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth and everything that has gone into new revelations on that.